Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for all your support. We are trending on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts because of you. We're ranked in the top 100 in mental health. I cannot believe that. I mean, it just blows my mind. And it's because of all of your support, and it's because of these amazing guests that I bring on who have stories. We all have a story. And today's going to be no different. We're joined by Keith Morey. Keith, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you guys are going to love this guy. You're going to love his story. But before we get there, I want to just first give a shout out to our sponsors, Wasatch Recovery, Siegfried and Jensen, Thread Wallets. The music you heard at the beginning and at the end of this is by my good friend, award-winning pianist Paul Cardall. He's an amazing human being, and he's got 25 active million listeners every month for all that he's doing. And so I'm grateful that he allowed me to use his music. So thanks to him. And again, thank you for tuning in once again. So again, like I said, we have Keith with us today. He currently works as the Assistant Director of Development Services and the City Economics Development Director in Provo for Provo City. He drove a long way to get here, so I really do appreciate all that.
You bet, of course.
And he's got an amazing story. You know, he's known in the recovery community by a lot of people. He was referred to me by a mutual friend of ours, Christian Smith, who we both look up to and
Love
admire for what he's been through.
Yeah.
And so, Keith, why don't we just start with tell our listeners where you grew up and maybe a little about your childhood.
Okay. Yeah, so my father was an FBI agent, so we moved around the country quite a bit. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and then we lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Wow. And then his first station as an FBI agent was Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and spent a little bit of time there, a year or two.
Okay.
And then he got transferred to Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And,
did you think that was cool? My dad's an FBI agent.
Yeah, it was really fun to say.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You know, especially when you're in first, second grade or whatever, and you're telling kids, "My dad's an FBI agent." You know, all the kids think you're way cool.
They're like, "What?"
I thought that was awesome until one of them said, "Oh, he's a female body inspector," and then I was devastated that they would slander the name of an FBI agent that way. I didn't know what to do with that.
Yeah, I remember that back in the day. Yeah, that was funny.
So yeah, I mean, it was kind of fun, and it was he was easy to look up to, and I was proud of him and what he did. And he was kind of of course, the provider of our family, but he was also the spiritual leader of our family too, because he always had church callings, whether it was in the bishopric or in the state presidency. So we moved to a little town just south of Oklahoma City called Lawton, and that's kind of where I grew up. I grew up and graduated from high school there.
Okay.
Did my first year of college there at Cameron University in Lawton, Oklahoma, and
then
went on my mission to Sacramento, California. Okay. And while I was on my mission, Dad moved back to work at FBI headquarters in D.C., so I came home off my mission to Virginia. Okay. And worked odd jobs, drove 18-wheelers, moving furniture all over Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. to make some money, and came out to go to school at BYU.
Okay. Right on. Did you, I talked to Christian a lot about you before you got here, and throughout the last couple of weeks, even when he shared your story with me, and I was like, man, I want to get this guy on.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he talks about the confidence and just how you the way you carry yourself. Have you always been that kind of guy, even when you were younger, like kind of a confident, sure of yourself? Or
no, actually, I grew up a dork. I really was. I mean, I was always that scrawny kid in school that. I don't know, I was always trying to find a way to fit in or to be accepted. I can remember kind of being on the outside, and something happened my junior year. I had decided that the little country school that I went to, I think there was less than 100 people in my class at the time when my junior year, wasn't going to get me anywhere, and so I transferred into the main high school in town, the big high school, because I thought that would be better to prepare me for college or whatever
Yeah.
was coming ahead. And I can remember mentally making the decision that things were going to change, that I was going to be one of the most popular kids at school. And not that being popular is important, but just that I was going to find a way to break through this being on the outside, and I was going to be on the inside. And I don't think anything special happened. It's not like I became super good looking or became a jock football player.
Yeah.
It just mentally something switched in me. And I fell in with a great group of people who were kind of active in a lot of things. And it was a great year. And I think it was just a mental change in me that kind of facilitated, I don't know, a difference in who I am and how I am.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So you find yourself at BYU, you graduate from BYU.
I did. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, so I got my undergraduate degree in English literature,
Okay.
which was kind of wonderful because all my friends took home stats problems or math problems, and I took a book home and read a book for the weekend and wrote a report. It was
You're like, I like this.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I really loved it. And while I was doing that, my wife at the time was the secretary for the director of the public administration program, the master's program at BYU.
Okay.
And so I met all those guys, and they were talking about how noble and rewarding public service was. And I just thought, well, that's kind of who I am. I mean, something happened to me when I was in high school. I read Catcher in the Rye, J.D. Salinger's book.
Yeah, I know of it. I haven't read it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and this concept of being somebody, Holden Caulfield has this dream of being in a rye field where he's the only one tall enough to see over the rye. And all these kids are playing in the rye, and they don't realize that they're next to a cliff. And so he's the only one that can protect them from plunging off the cliff.
Okay.
And that resonated with, I always wanted to be that guy, the guy that somehow could protect or help or do something for everybody else. So getting a degree in public administration and going out and serving people in my community just really aligned with what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be.
Well, you look like a protector,
No,
to be honest with you. Yeah, and that's definitely a compliment, man. You look like the guy that, hey, I want this guy on my team, you know,
awesome.
for sure. So,
Thank you.
Well, you know, I know there's a lot to, you know, your life and your story, but I want to get into, you know, you got caught up in addiction and lost your way, right? As a simple way of saying it. But let's talk about that, and if you don't mind kind of sharing, like, how did that start and what that led to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of grew up with the God of the Old Testament, right? Fire and brimstone. And you know, you touch the Ark of the Covenant when you haven't been chosen, and you get burned. You know, it's over, right? One strike and you're out, kind of thing.
Yeah, you're done.
And I guess I just began to keep track of my mistakes, and figured if I was keeping track, I knew he was too. And so when your balance sheet starts to get kind of out of whack in that regard, you start to make more deposits to compensate. So when I wasn't getting answers to prayers, I figured it was because God was upset. And so I needed to read the scriptures more. So I'm reading them once a day. I need to read them in the morning and in the night.
Man.
Or I'm going to the temple once a month. Maybe I should go once a week. Or I watch General Conference, but maybe I need to read it too. Maybe I need to listen to it every day on my work. And so I kind of went down that path of how can I overcompensate for this perception that God was mad at me or that he was upset. And that's just unsustainable.
For sure.
I mean, eventually, no matter what you do or how hard you're trying, that doesn't change the dynamic because your perception was wrong to begin with. And eventually I became convinced when my life kind of started to unravel and went through a divorce that it was because God had given up on me.
Oh, man.
And I finally said, if that's the case, then screw you. If that's the case, then I could do this on my own. You don't need me. I don't need you either. And I just started to decide to take the hard road and I'll figure this out.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common, Keith, especially where we live, right? Where it's almost like if I do enough, then I might be enough in God's eyes, right? That's what it sounded like. I can relate because I'm a lot like you in the sense of I'm all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I'm in, watch me.
Yeah.
And I was that guy too. Like, well, if the temple's good once a month, maybe once a week's even better.
Hey, you know what? I went twice. This month.
And I don't want to make it about me, but I remember I would go to the temple once a week, and I did that for a couple years, and I remember being so burned out. It wasn't that I thought the temple was bad, But in my mind, I'm like, I cannot walk through that door again. I'm burned out. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, I can't keep up. And again, thinking that that's what God wanted me to do. So I can,
No,
I guess I can just relate.
I think it's a problem in our culture.
Yeah.
Frankly. And I had a really interesting experience that I'd like to share with you about.
Yeah, please.
I was living in Daybreak, and there was a family in our ward that was, from the outside perspective, completely buttoned up.
Yeah.
You know, all their kids were perfect, little blue-eyed, blonde-haired, perfect kids.
Yeah.
They were the kids in primary that had all the right answers, said everything right. You know, she had the mom had I think she was relief site president. He was this or that. And they just seemed like they had it all together. And at one point I had been asked to give a talk about my experiences. And so I was a little bit vulnerable about it. And as she walked by my house later that day, she commented how much she appreciated it. And I think I said, well, you know, thank you very much, but you guys have got it all figured out. So
yeah, right. Who am I?
And she stopped short. She said, but we don't. And she said, and that's a problem because, and she wasn't suggesting that there was something hugely wrong in their family.
Right.
But she said, everybody thinks we do. And she said, have you ever heard of scrupulosity? And I'm like, well, no, I haven't. What are you talking about? She said, yeah, it's this overcompensation when you think that you're not good enough and you have to go overboard to try to become good. And she said, you know, we have our own stuff just like everybody else does, but this perception within our culture that we have it all figured out is so oppressive. I think we're going to have to leave Utah and go live somewhere else so that we can find peace and find a way to manage through this. And they did. And I mean, they're an incredible family.
Sure.
I think they're incredible people, and I'm sure that they're fine. And maybe that's just their journey. But I think the fact that we overcompensate and we think that that's how this system works creates that paradigm that it's just not sustainable or livable. You can't survive it.
Yeah, for sure. And scrupulosity is a form of OCD.
Yeah.
And it's very common, you know, not only on the individual level, but a family can get caught up in it and that kind of thing. And we've got to show that, man, here's where we're at and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's definitely a problem that, and it shouldn't be that way. But again, we do get caught up in that.
Well, it's fascinating to me because, I mean, I go way back to Adam and Eve, and I think the thing that we don't understand is Adam and Eve came here to screw up.
Right.
I mean, and that's just, we don't, and maybe we don't talk about that because you can't create a culture of people that think it's okay to screw up.
Right.
I mean, you're trying to create a culture of people that want to be obedient, and I understand that, but that's a difficult, very tenuous path to walk. And the real message for me after coming through my experience is that, you know, Adam and Eve didn't go and confess something that God didn't already know. You know, the first thing Satan wanted them to do was hide and try to pretend like God didn't already know. When what God really wanted was for them just to say, hey, listen, you know what? I knew you were going to do it. It's okay. I've got it all figured out. Matter of fact, I've got a savior. I've got an atonement all set up to take care of this. I just needed you to be vulnerable and honest and tell me that you had done it so that we could talk about what was next and how to move forward. But instead, we shame ourselves and shame others and try to hide and lie and deceive, and that just does not cut it.
Doesn't cut it. Wow. You're spot on with that. So obviously you're going through this, you're struggling with that, and you're like, well, okay, God, if you're not there for me, I'm not going to be there for you. Pick up from there, and then what that led to.
Yeah, so I met someone that didn't have a problem drinking, and you know, I had kind of gone off the rails. I think I was trying to find a way to cope with some of my own guilt. And so, you know, I thought, well, you know, I'm already going to hell. What's the difference?
What's the difference?
I started having a drink or two now and then, and then I got prostate cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so then it just became a way to cope, right? It's like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what to do. You know, my family had kind of wasn't really supportive because I was kind of on the outside now, right? And I don't think they really knew what to do with me. So I really didn't have anybody to turn to or anybody to talk to or whatever. And alcohol was a good friend. I mean, you know, it's like they say in recovery. I mean, alcohol really works until it doesn't.
Exactly.
And it did. I mean, it helped.
It did what it needed to.
Yeah, numb some pain and some feelings and manage through it. But that's a really slippery slope.
Oh, for sure.
And so it I guess it progressed into not just coping with cancer. It progressed to coping with anything, right? I mean, I had a bad day. I need a drink to cope. I have this bad experience. I better have a drink to cope with that too. And that's just a really big downward spiral. So
yeah. Had you had people in your life notice this too? Were they like reaching out to you saying, "Hey, Keith, something's up. What's wrong or what's going on?" Or did you try to hide
I was pretty good at
good
at hiding it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I think people knew that I drank.
Right.
Of course, and I don't know. As an alcoholic, your perception that you're hiding it really well is who knows? I mean, I haven't had anybody come up to me and say, "Yeah, you weren't hiding it like you think you were."
Right.
So maybe everybody knew I was
Yeah.
worse off than maybe I didn't hide it at all. But it progressed to the point that I was drinking at work because eventually, the alcoholism is so addictive that I'm drinking all the time, and you have to drink or you can't survive. You've got the shakes if you don't.
Yeah.
You can't do whatever. So I got to the point where I'm drinking at work, and one morning I didn't have anything to drink at work, but I had a bottle and a half of Listerine.
Oh man.
And so I put down a half a bottle of Listerine, and
Wow.
And I was there early. I was there before anybody else was at work, and I'm sitting there bawling, and I'm looking at this bottle of Listerine. And I'm going, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop, so I put down the other bottle of Listerine, and then I ran, and I went to the liquor store, and I got a couple of bottles of Everclear and a bottle of vodka. And I just wanted to drive, and I hoped that God would be merciful enough that He would let me die without hurting
Really?
somebody else.
Wow.
That He would, I'm praying the whole time. I decided I'm going to drive to Wyoming to my mom's gravesite in Wheatland, Wyoming, and I hope because Mom's dead, and I don't know that maybe there's some comfort there.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that God, without hurting anybody else, would take me. So I'm driving, I'm drinking, and I'm praying to God, keep me safe, but just take me.
Yeah.
Not keep me safe, keep other people safe.
Yeah, right.
But just take me. I'm
Take
willing
me
to
now.
admit I completely screwed this up. I don't care what the consequences are. I'm willing to admit I failed the test. I completely blew it. Let it be over. Please just end it and let it be over.
Wow.
And that was.
So you're obviously hurting so bad.
Yeah.
To the point you don't even want to exist.
Yeah.
Man. So you go, you run, you drive up to Wyoming.
Yeah.
Did you make it to the gravesite?
No, I didn't. I was gone for about 4 days. And I was, I had turned my phone off so people couldn't track me. At some point, I had turned my phone back on, and my wife had called, and by that time, well, I finally got to Laramie, and checked myself into a hotel because I've been sleeping in my car because I didn't want the alarms to go off using my credit card. I finally used my credit card and checked in and turned my phone on, and my wife called me, and she said, "I know where you are. We're on our way. Just don't go anywhere and be safe. It's going to be okay."
Wow.
And by that point, I had just completely bottomed out. I mean, I was physically and emotionally exhausted, and I just was ready to surrender and give up. And I just said, please come get me, come save me. I'll do anything. I won't go anywhere. So.
Was this, is this where the missing persons went out?
Yeah. It was during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a missing persons report out saying, "Hey, this guy's missing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anyone seen this guy?"
Yeah.
So again, obviously family, friends, and people are concerned. They're scared.
Yeah, it's painful. I've saved a
don't-
lot of them. I've saved a lot of the messages that are on my phone from people, and I've saved them because I don't want to erase them, but it's painful to listen to just because to remind yourself of the guilt, the pain you cause to other people.
Yeah,
I guess is hard.
Well, I would imagine too, Keith, and I want to put words in your mouth, but does it also remind you how many people cared about you?
No, yeah. Listen, here's what I said. So when my sister and my wife finally showed up, they got me on the phone with my sister and I had known Alema Harrington in college at BYU, and she kept in contact with Alema, and she had his phone number, and so she got a hold of Alema and said, "My brother's in trouble. We need your help." And so she got Alema and Christian on the phone, and all of a sudden, for the first time, I talked to two men who'd been through what I'd been through and survived, and were successful And I can remember Christian said, dude, it's okay. It's going to be all right. There's a way out of this, and we've got you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And for the first time, and I don't even know how long, years, I felt like there was hope.
Wow.
And like it was going to be okay. And I've said this before as people have asked me to talk about it. It was like up in heaven, when all this was going down and I was gone, it wasn't just that the missing persons report went out here in Utah.
Yeah.
It's like a flare went off in heaven. And someone shot off and said, Keith's in trouble.
Wow.
Everybody get moving. Because the number of people that just automatically showed up in our lives that could be helpful. I mean, we didn't know it at the time, but a guy that was a member of the Secret Service lived right across the street. So when my wife was talking to the bishop trying to get help, he connected her with him because he was in the bishopric as well.
Okay.
And they were over at the house in the middle of the night in their pajamas while this guy from the Secret Service is helping my wife get security camera footage of me getting gas at these gas stations and doing this and doing that. And just people like that randomly showed up that all of a sudden were there to help. And I think it really helped me recognize how valuable we are, each and every one of us in every way, that God is willing to send out the troops to find us and to help us get home. Here's, I love the story in the Book of Mormon about Nephi and Lehi and the Tree of Life. Mm-hmm. One of my big problems with that, though, coming through this, though, is no one talks about what happens to those people that got lost in the midst of darkness.
Yeah.
But they get found. And they get found, taught by people like you and people like me that have been lost too, that know where to look and know how to wander just a little bit far enough into the mist to grab a hand and tell someone, I got you. I know how to get out. Here's the way. It's going to be all right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing that Christian and Alema were there for you at that particular moment. So what happened then? Because you're still struggling. I mean, you hear these words, it's at least some hope in your life. What do you do from there?
Well, it was kind of weird because Christian got me on I knew I needed to go into recovery at that point, and I had completely bottomed out, so I would have done anything. So that sounds really scary to someone that's never been there, and I'd never been there. I'd never done anything like that. I'd never had a problem with drugs. Never did know anything about recovery or anything like that. But when you finally bottom out and you're totally willing to surrender, it's not scary anymore because you'll just do anything.
Yeah.
But he put me on the phone with one of the doctors, and the doctor said, "Well, if you were here, I'd prescribe something from you, but I can't because you're in another state and you're so far away. Do you have any alcohol with you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I've still got a bottle of vodka." And he said, "Well, have your family help you self-medicate and just sip, because if you stop right now, you're probably going to die."
Yeah.
It was just such an odd experience to have a doctor telling me you're so bad off that you can't just stop. So keep drinking a little bit and wean yourself off. So I did that. Spent a couple of days at home that were horrible, trying to come off of alcohol. Yeah. And then the next Monday, I checked myself into Renaissance Ranch.
Wow.
And
well, I want to talk about that experience, but I want to, for our listeners who may not know, they might be thinking, why would they tell you to keep drinking, right? And if I understand correctly from my experience and the things that I've learned, when someone quits cold turkey who's been drinking as heavily as you have been, your risk for stroke goes up like 65%.
Yeah.
You can have a seizure.
That's what he said.
I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? So for those who are going, that makes no sense why a doctor would tell you keep drinking.
Well, it's
but
really
that's
funny.
Why.
Yeah, because most people don't. It's interesting, when you stand on the outside, you watch an alcoholic and you say, what an idiot, why doesn't he just stop? An alcoholic gets to the point where it's no longer a matter of whether I do or don't want to drink.
Right.
Your body has become so dependent that you don't have a choice.
You have to.
You are a slave now.
You are a slave. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
You are there.
I mean, it's the great lie that Satan tells us all, right? Go ahead and do this. You can be free. You can be free of all the rules and regulations. You don't have to be obligated to anybody. And while you're being free, so to speak,
right.
He catches you and enslaves you and chains you up to that stuff.
Wow. So you go to Renaissance Ranch, you go into treatment. Just give us a little, how that went and what you learned there about you and about what you were going through. And
it's like I said, I had gotten to a point where I would have done anything, and I've told people since then, if they had told me, okay, to get better, you're going to need to stand on this coffee table in the middle of the room and dance around on the table and wave a Kleenex over your head, I would have done it because I just didn't care. I mean, whatever it was going to take.
At this point, I'll do whatever.
Yeah, and so
wow.
within a week or two, I was in one of the sessions, and I was praying desperately every day. Help me find a way out of this. Help me get better. Help me figure out what's wrong. And I can remember the day I was in one of the sessions, and it wasn't that something got said in the session, but I felt a switch flip in my head, and I felt it taken away. Wow. And it's interesting. I'm not a big AA person, but the Alcoholics Anonymous book talks about for those who truly surrender. Your addiction can be taken away, and it will be taken away. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, they'll actually say, it says in the big book, we were recovered. Yeah. It's over.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Because
and that's why I've had a really hard time, because there are people that tell you that's sketchy conversation to say you're recovered. Yeah. If you start talking like that around some people, they'll say, "Ooh, boy, you're really, really close to relapsing, brother."
Dude, don't. It's almost like a 4-letter word in recovery. You can't say that.
Exactly. And I think I'm honest with myself enough to say, of course, anything could happen again, but I know I'm recovered. I know I'm over it. That's not who I am anymore. It was an experience, but I am not an alcoholic. I had an experience being one. And I learned some incredible lessons, but I am not one today, and I will never be one again.
Wow, I love that. It's beautiful. So how long did you end up staying at Renaissance Ranch? You remember?
Yeah, 90 days.
90 days. Did the 90-day thing. Yeah. And so you had this switch go on, which I can relate because I had the same thing.
Did you?
Yep. I just knew. No, it was one of these moments where I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, same.
And it's hard to explain it to someone because they think, well, are you really?
Right. Exactly.
And I get why people don't trust that and all that fun, but I knew, Keith, I just knew it. And that's when I, went on where I am today even. So what did you decide to do with your life at that point when you knew, okay, I'm done putting poison in my body?
Yeah.
Did you, what was the shift and where did it take you
Well, it's interesting.
There?
I told all the guys that were in-house with me at the time, I said, we're done. I said, there is. I said we can be the first group that 100% of us never relapse, and that never has a problem again. That's who we're going to be. And I guess I was naive because I didn't realize that just because it was true for me, doesn't mean that it was true for everyone else. Right. And there are some guys that were in house with me that are dead now, that aren't alive anymore, who didn't make it. And to me, that's just a clear sign that you've got to do the work to let that switch be flipped so that you can be cured. And I would never, ever try to judge someone else for their recovery. I mean, everybody's got to do what they've got to do. Yeah. But for someone that's still going to AA meetings because they're afraid they're going to relapse, to me what that says is there's something that's still going on inside you that you haven't dealt with. Exactly. And if you can fix that, you will be cured.
Couldn't agree more.
And so stop and figure that out and let that flip get switched, because then, you will be recovered.
Yeah, I love that, Keith. I'll tell my clients, I have no problem with you saying I'm done if you're putting in the work.
Yeah, exactly.
It's when we say we're done and we're not doing the work.
And you're playing the game. We're playing the system.
Playing some game. Yeah. You're in trouble.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And we understand that. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
And I think that's the difficult side for people that are trying to manage a recovery process is being able to really discern whose switch got flipped and who's just playing a game. Yeah. And I don't know how you ever know that. It's so individual. It really comes down to whether the person you're dealing with is honest or not.
Yeah. So now, you're looking back in your life and going through all of this and kind of that challenge and even the struggle with trying to please God every single day and going overboard with all that. What were some of the bigger, this is a big question, I know, but what were some of the biggest lessons you've learned through this process of what you've been through?
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned or alluded early to really the reality that how much Heavenly Father loves us, and how unique and individual and important each and every one of us, regardless of what's going on. And to me, the fact that He loves us with our flaws, not in spite of our flaws, that we came here because there were certain things. Listen, there's a lot of reasons for me to be ashamed of myself,
Right.
and what I went through.
Yeah.
But I know perfectly well that I learned things by going through that experience that I came here to learn. There was no other way I was going to learn them, and so I can't. If I had to go, people ask all the time, if you had to live your life again, would you go back and redo that stuff or change something? It's like, yeah, no, I wouldn't, because I had to do it.
Yeah,
and
for
as
sure.
painful and as hard as it was, there's no other way for me to have learned those lessons.
Yeah.
And so I think if there's anything I could tell anybody, is Heavenly Father knew you were going to make the mistakes you're making right now, and it's okay.
Yeah.
That's why He set things up the way He did. He wants you to be vulnerable about them and admit them, and it'll be all right.
Yeah.
There's a way forward.
Yeah, I like that. Obviously, faith is means a lot to you.
It does.
And I appreciate you're so open with it.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Why is faith so important to you, and why do you feel like, how has that helped you through this process of being recovered and going through that?
Well, I mean, another thing the big book talks about is the belief in the higher power, right? I mean, I think you have to have some belief and some trust that there is something greater than yourself. I mean, really, it all comes down to if there isn't a God, then what's the point? I mean,
Why are we here?
Then none of this really matters, right?
Yeah, right.
This whole conversation is irrelevant.
Right.
So
Yeah.
If you could just accept the fact, well, yeah, there has to be something, then you admit that there's a higher power, whatever that means to you, and if you'll grasp a hold of that, then there's a reason to be better and to get through this stuff. If not, then I mean, you're kind of talking to a dead wall.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. As you're doing this, do you still like do something in your recovery in the sense of you're reaching out and making a difference in people's lives, even if it's a one-on-one like this? And again, I so appreciate.
I mean, I try to. I had a couple of interesting experiences, because I'm not the kind of guy that wears this on my sleeve.
Yeah.
Because some people get it and some people don't.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to have the conversation with anybody that gets it. I'm not really interested in having the conversation with somebody that wants to judge me because of it.
Right.
And
Gotcha.
so
I understand that.
It becomes quickly apparent who you can have a conversation with about this stuff and who you can't.
Yeah.
And so I've had some people that, because of who they were, this subject has come up, and inevitably they'll say, well, I've got a friend, or I've got my son. A really good friend of mine came to me and said his son was struggling, and would, based on my experience, would I be willing to get together with him?
Yeah.
And so we did. And
nice.
we had a couple of lunch meetings, and then he and I texted each other for a while, and he had an incredible experience, and someday managed to read exactly the right thing at exactly the right time that flipped his switch, and he got better. So I've had a couple of experiences like that with people that I've been able to talk to and maybe help, I hope, a little bit.
Absolutely. No, I love that. If there's someone listening to your voice right now, Keith, who's in that dark place, maybe they don't even have that higher power background, and they're lost, kind of like running like you were.
Yeah.
You're like, you were just, I'm done. What would you tell that person right now?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, even if you can't grasp the concept of a higher power, we all care. I mean, the people around you care.
Yeah.
And even people like me who may not know you care.
Yeah.
Because we've been there.
Yeah.
I mean, I know exactly where that dark road is that they're on. I know exactly what the circumstances are, and we all care a lot, and we want to see those people come out of the other end of that tunnel, and we're willing to reach out. We're willing to hold a hand. We're willing to let you sit and talk. We're willing to comfort you to make it through it, and it's worth waking up on the other side of that tunnel. It really is.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of people I know that thought that there wasn't any point to this, that now that they're sober, look back and go, I'm so thankful that I just had this one other chance to see how meaningful my life could be.
Yeah.
What addiction and the poison that we put in our body clouds our perspective of reality. And if you can clear your head enough to see that that's what's going on, the sun's really bright and the world is pretty great.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, there's
Sure.
still stuff that goes on. I mean,
Yeah.
every day, right? I mean, I think we all are dealing with stuff every day, but it's better on this side.
No, thank you that's great advice. I love that. How has your experience with addiction helped you with your current position in Provo City? How has that helped you maybe look at the community differently? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I went into the profession I went into because I wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And being able to work in cities to make cities a better place is a really incredible opportunity to be able to drive through the city that you serve and see the changes that you made and the differences that you made is really important. And that, that dumbs all the way down to the individual level too. And, and so I think my personal experience with addiction just adds a whole nother layer to that level of importance on how, there are people all around us that need a touch or a handhold. Or it's fascinating to me. I've had this vision in my head of, we're all sitting in church and we're waiting for someone to speak, and he's on his way up to the pulpit and he trips and falls in the aisle, right?
Yeah.
And we're all looking around going, what happened? Why did he fall? He fell in the aisle. Did you see that? And we're all kind of whispering to each other. And then someone says, oh, look, he didn't tie his shoe. What an idiot. Why didn't he tie his shoe? That's why he fell.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting around having that conversation instead of getting up. I mean, none of that matters. What matters is the guy that's willing to get up out of your seat and help the guy up so he can go on up to the front of the chapel. And I think so many times we're all sitting around pointing the finger at each other about why the other person fell or why they tripped or why this or why that, when none of that matters. All that's irrelevant. It's like, who's going to step out of their comfort zone and give that person a hand up and just say, brother, I don't really care why you're on your face. Let's just get up. It's going to be okay.
Wow.
What can I do to help?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. And you're right. I mean, I'd hate to say I've probably been guilty of that person that would laugh maybe a little bit, and I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I really don't, because, I mean, geez, the stuff I've been through in my life, man, I wanted people to at least have some compassion for me, and I think we all need that, especially more now in this world, is compassion, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because in one of the sessions I was sitting in recovery, I'm sitting with all these guys, and some of them have been to jail, and some of them have dealt drugs, and some of them done this and done that. We're all supposed to be sharing our story, and it's coming around to my turn, and I'm just about to open my mouth, and the first words out of my mouth are going to be, I'm nothing like you guys. I don't know why I'm here. I didn't do drugs. I didn't go to prison or whatever. Mm-hmm. And before the words could come out of my mouth, something stopped me, and a switch clicked in my head, and I said, I'm exactly like all you guys. Yeah. My story is different. My experiences are different, but we're exactly the same. And I think that translates out of recovery to just life in general. Yeah. We are all the same. Todd's having a different experience than Keith has, and Mary's having a different experience than Keith and Todd are having. Right. But the story's the same. The need for humanity and compassion and concern have never, ever, ever in the whole existence of the world been more important than it is right now. Yeah. We're so focused on finding fault with everyone around us when none of that bullshit matters. I'm sorry. What really matters is just what does that person need, and how can I help, and how much more patience and love can I show instead of intolerance and judgment and wrong finding and finger pointing. Yeah.
Dude, Keith, you have a really powerful way of talking. I don't know if you know this.
I don't.
Someone's probably told you this before, but you speak with force, and it comes across as strong but yet compassionate.
Oh, thank you.
You really should be out speaking more. I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Thanks.
You really should, because I think, man, your story is one of, like you said, we all have the similar story.
Yeah.
I mean, every one of us, right? And so, but no, I really love the way you carry yourself. What does your day look like? What does the day in a life look like for you? Like, how do you start your day? Do you have a certain morning routine that you try to follow? I mean, it looks like you take really good care of yourself. You look like you're in good shape.
No, thank you.
What does that look like?
I'd like to take better care of myself. I really should. I was doing really good with the whole exercise thing until COVID hit, and then for whatever reason, we all stopped going to the gyms.
Yeah,
I've still yet to be able to find a way back into that zone, but I'm sure I will at some point. I try to find a way to get up early and to kind of set my priorities for the day. Mm-hmm. So we work 410s in Provo City, so I'm there usually by 6:30. We start at 7, And so I'm usually trying to get into work. I get up earlier than that. I get about 5 o'clock, and I try to kind of organize my day in my head and get my thoughts straight, and then get into work a little bit early so I can kind of get myself prepped and ready for the day. We have Provo City's fortunate to have one of the most incredible mayors. I've worked for him the whole 30 years that I've worked in municipal government, and I've worked in cities from Payson all the way up to Ogden, and I've worked with a lot of mayors.
Right. Yeah.
Mayor Michelle Kafusi is the first mayor, and she's just absolutely incredible.
I've heard really good things about her.
She's a phenomenal individual. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody more dedicated to our community. So anyway, just her vision for what our community can be is very inspiring. It's easy to get on that bus and do just about anything that they want you to do. So there's been a lot of great things happening in Provo. It's a fun place to work.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. One last tough question. Okay?
Yeah, please.
This is usually a tough one for my client, or for my guests. Is what do you love most about you?
Wow. What do I love most about me?
I know it's a tough one because we don't usually look at it that way.
No, I mean, that is hard, and I'm not a very introspective person, and I don't like to think a lot about myself. But I am that I mentioned at the very beginning, kind of this concept of being the catcher in the rye. And I have always wanted to be that person. And there's another person I'll mention to you. Coming across as the pioneers were coming across the country, there was a gentleman whose name was John Chislett, who kind of wasn't a leader, but rose to some leadership roles because they needed someone to take care of everybody. And for whatever reason, whether it was God's hand in his life or whether he was just a strong individual, he was the guy that always seemed to have an extra measure of strength to help those around him. So whether he was picking people up on the trail or breaking camp or breaking the pathway or whatever, he was just always that guy. And if there was any way I could be that person, if my life could end and I could realize that I'd been that person, that somehow at some level, and the thing that I love most about John Chislett is no one knows who he is.
Right.
There's not a statue or a trophy or whatever. He was just a Joe that just did the crap that needed to get done. I'd like to be that guy. Yeah. And so, if there's anything I like about myself is that I have that desire, and whether or not I accomplish it or not, I guess we'll find out when this whole thing is over. But it would be nice to think that somehow you were able to be that kind of person that was always there to help. Yeah.
No, I'm sure you're doing a great job at it. I mean, I know Christian thinks the world of you and couldn't say enough good things about you. And I can just tell that you're this good guy and doing good things. And obviously the role you play in Provo City and the example you're trying to put forth is amazing to me.
Well, thank you.
And it's funny. I think a lot of times we don't know how many lives we touch just by the words we say.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so grateful that you're willing to be on our show today, because your words are going to touch someone's life in a way that maybe we don't hear about it. Nope. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, for what it's worth, Keith, I consider you, now that we're sitting here, as a friend, and I'd love to help you any way that I can.
Same.
Honestly,
Same.
I mean that.
Me too.
And it's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's been a pleasure to be here. I mean, if there's one more thing I could say to anybody that's listening, one of the things we talk about in recovery is terminal uniqueness and how damaging that can be. And none of us are unique. We're all in this together. And if there's anybody that's listening that thinks that their situation is unique and they're unhelpable, they're not. Yeah. And we're here to help. We're all around you. And give us a call. Give me a call. Yeah. I mean, just reach out.
Yeah, and that was going to be my final question, but thank you. That was beautifully said. If someone wants to reach out to you, Keith, and just get to know you better, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, my personal email is klmorey@yahoo.com.
Okay.
So I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody that wants to.
Okay, I love that. And I'll put that in the show notes. So when we go live, they can just click on that. And,
absolutely.
And I hope that people will reach out to you, because you got a lot to offer. So.
Well, thank you.
You're awesome, Keith. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah. I mean, I can't believe we've been talking for 50 minutes.
It went so fast.
It felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it just means it was flowing. And so thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And thanks for being a light in recovery for all of us.
You bet.
Seriously, I love it. Well, there you go, folks. I told you this was going to be another amazing episode, and it was. And I do encourage you to reach out to Keith. If you have a family member or a friend or a coworker that's struggling and you're not quite sure how to talk to him, because a lot of times I hear this a lot. I don't know even what to say. Send them the link to this episode. Let them hear Keith's story, And then you get a follow up, and it's going to open them right up and say, hey, what did you think? And it will open that dialogue, and maybe you can be that person that Christian was for Keith, that Alema was for Keith, right? Where, oh, there's a little bit of hope there. You can be that person for that. So let's do that. Again, thanks to the sponsors. Thanks for all your support. And one last time, Keith, thanks for all you do.
Thanks, Todd. You bet.
Okay, take care.